Well, new tonight, we have learned that a man at the middle of a SWAT standoff Friday has now been charged with murder. Gerard Stewart is being held tonight without bond in Duval County. That ordeal started with a 911 call and it ended with officers finding a body inside. They have not confirmed the identity of the person who was killed that they found, but we do know that police were trying to find the suspect's wife. It is not clear if they ever made contact with her.